think you'd like to talk about?
I'm open to anything.
Have you been thinking about what we should talk about today?
I mean, a little bit. I mean, as far as like the treatment, obviously that we did, like the injuries, obviously an important part of it. But I don't know. I'm up for anything. Honestly, I'm pretty good at finding, just be able to keep hopefully able to be good at keep a conversation going and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, whatever. However, it kind of.
What you been up to?
Lately, just like as far as like lately, just baseball, travel baseball, running, training again for Des Moines and stuff. So
Des Moines coming up in a couple months.
October. Yep. I'm actually almost switched gears now. So I have a buddy that's running an ultramarathon in Dubuque. It's a 100-mile ultramarathon, and one of my other buddies asked if I kind of wanted to help maybe pace that, some sections of it for him and stuff. So I've kind of thought about the idea. I haven't really trained for an ultramarathon, and he's heads and tails a better runner than me and stuff. But I don't know. It'd be nice to help him out, and kind of pay him back, because we started. It's kind of funny. The first marathon I ever ran was the very first marathon he ever ran too. So
that's cool.
And I kind of look up to him because he's a Boston qualifier. He ran in the Boston Marathon last year and stuff, and just a really good guy and stuff. So
he's doing ultras now. So
he's doing a lot of different things. He's done ultras. He just got done doing his first 140.6 full Ironman triathlon in Texas. He's done several marathons and stuff, and he's a unbelievable athlete.
So you're thinking about being a pacer for him?
I just actually get tossed around the idea yesterday, but it's hard because it's 2 days before my marathon is that ultra. So I'd have to scratch my marathon, and that's kind of something where it's like I still want to kind of pursue what I've been going for too and stuff.
How big of a leg would you try to pace?
I know that I think they're like 20-mile loop increments. So I'm wondering if somewhere like then there's like 4 aid stations, I think, in those 20 miles scattered throughout, and a couple of them, they have like crew areas where you can set up your crew, you can set up your team or whatever. And I don't know if me and my buddy would like change off, like he'd be at this one, pick up Tyler, our other buddy, and then I'd be at another one, maybe do like 10, 20 mile increments and stuff, or who knows? I don't know, but it's just be kind of, it's out of my comfort zone, which is kind of cool in a way, but and it's a lot of elevation change. So it's like 14,000 feet of elevation gain and descent. So I actually watched it was like a podcast of ultra runners that described the race, and they're saying there's a lot of natural features. There's all kinds of different terrains, and they actually have like natural like steps, which are, people think running up an incline is difficult. Well, steps are even more difficult, because you got to use so much more force to get up to that next step. It's not just a gradual, rolling incline kind of thing. So but
so where's that at?
Dubuque,
Dubuque,
Iowa.
There's 14,000 total
throughout the whole race. Yeah,
okay, so it's up and down a lot.
Up and down,
So it's down in the river valleys and stuff.
Sure, I would assume. Yeah,
that's super cool.
Yeah, but
I was thinking when you said elevation, I was thinking like you'd actually altitude too, because that's completely a game changer.
Yes,
because I always
a gain in this, ascent and descent, I guess I should say.
Because every time I think I'm in shape, I go to like Colorado and I try to do something and I can't.
Yeah,
I mean, even just I noticed a difference. My son just moved to Tucson, and we were just there last week, and I tried to do a little bit of a workout, and it wasn't that bad. But even that little elevation change from where they're at compared to where we're at was a difference. And like the oxygen is just, the exchange is so different and hard to get used to.
Yeah.
So have you ever thought about doing like ultras yourself?
I've thought about it. And it's a totally different kind of race.
Yeah.
It's more so, it's a little slower paced, and it's kind of all about like nutrition and just it's such a mental grind, and it takes such a bigger toll on your body too. Your joints and your everything. I mean, it's such a bigger like toll, and it's a lot of times you're doing it overnight. Like the sun's going down, you got to pack food. And some of them aren't like the loop courses. You're going out and you're not stopping the whole time. There might be aid stations along the way, but you kind of got to be a little more self-sufficient. A lot of them do have, you can bring a crew of pacers. It takes a big team to do an ultra marathon too, compared to like a normal marathon where you have all the aid stations on the course, or you have family members that can see you a couple times in the 26 miles. But yeah, it's
see, that's so interesting. Like you think about like the different levels there are. Like even most people would think that a marathon is the really far distance, but there's people finish them in under 4 hours now.
Yeah,
Didn't someone break 4 hours not long ago?
For the marathon, it'd be
Yeah.
2 hours.
2
Yeah,
hours.
and so it's been done by one guy, and it wasn't like an official race.
Right.
And it was Eliud Kipchoge of Kenya, I'm sorry, that did that, and he ran at like 159 and some change, but he had a group of like some of the most elite athletes, elite runners in the world, and they had almost like a V formation, like a reverse V formation in front of him and a reverse V formation behind him.
Drag.
And they were the air resistance was like perfect. All the conditions were perfect for him. But I believe it's 201, I believe is the fastest and some change,
That's just nuts.
It is. Yeah.
So what's I think they even calculated what mile per hour is that then. That's like 13 miles per hour?
Something along I'm not sure about. I know it's like a 4 minute and some change mile for 26 miles, 26.2 miles straight. Total. So yeah, they're on a different level and stuff. And
so it's neat to see people continue to push the envelope in other areas. I just watched that. I don't know if you've seen on Netflix. They did the what's it called, the mile, or the woman that was trying to break 4 minute mile.
Okay,
Did you
I
watch
haven't seen that. No,
it's interesting. They kind of created the perfect scenario again. They're trying to no woman has broke the 4 minute mile.
Mm-hmm.
And so they did the same thing. They had men and women pacers that were trying to create drag and stuff just to get her to do it. And she ended up, I think she it was like a 4:06 or something. She was super close, but yet so far away.
Yeah.
But then to go back to the other idea, to think that marathons were always this big, huge, like long race, and we got people finish them in 2 hours now, and even the guy like you, was it then 4.5 hours?
So my fastest time is 3 hours and 11
minutes.
That's
amazing.
Yeah,
but then you got another race now. You're running all day.
Yeah. Yep, all day, and you're not running the entire time. There's sections, like a lot of the sections you're walking, you're pacing yourself, you're taking breaks. It's not like you're constantly running, and that's what makes it a little different. The aid portion and the recovery portion in an ultra is so much different than a marathon, because you're recovering on the fly. Like you're teetering that line. When you get into like a 2,000 calorie plus deficit when you're running a marathon, your body starts to shut down. So you have to refuel that. And kind of just teeter the line of shutting down and going at your max effort while you're trying to maintain that.
And it takes such good conditioning of the body to be able to even, I think, benefit from nutrition.
Yeah.
So, because even like when I talk to patients about chiropractic and how we affect the body, and we talk a lot about the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And sympathetic is typically when we're exercising, we're in that sympathetic dominant. We're using the fight or flight portion. We're using where we want good blood flow and muscle tension. We want that functioning. But the body inherently, when you're in that sympathetic state, you're not using the parasympathetic side, where parasympathetic is typically controlling digestion, immune system, things like that.
Yeah.
And so typically your body isn't able to process and get nutrients. But ultra marathon runners I'm assuming, have trained so much. They're hovering. Yes, they're in the slight sympathetic dominance, but it's still sub like full threshold of their training ability, so that their body's still able to function and digest some food. Because you eat, like you said, you have to. Like you can't like spend that many calories and not, like they call it bonk or whatever.
Yep,
like
bonking is
the term.
Yep.
And so it's so interesting that they've just trained their body to do that and to be able to consume some fuel and keep going. So how long you been doing marathons?
I started my running journey in 2021. My first marathon was in October of 2022.
Yeah, that's awesome. Crazy. So what did you do before that? Like, were you always into athletics and running? Or?
So I've been an athlete pretty much my whole life. Grew up, played football. I was really into weightlifting. The only I wasn't good at football. Very humbly, I was not good. I was actually a lot bigger guy. I was the heaviest I was 285 pounds.
Wow.
Almost. So
holy cow.
Yeah.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'9". Yeah.
So you were a big guy.
Yeah, when I was in high school, my senior year, I was like 221 pounds. I was pretty muscular, pretty athletic and stuff. And I played football because I enjoyed the weightlifting. I enjoyed the camaraderie in the weight room, and lifting with the buddies and that sort of thing and all that. And when I get into something, I dive in deep, and I dove in deep to weight. And I was always a big golfer. I played a lot of. We played in a couple state championships in high school.
Oh, wow.
And we had a real good golf team and stuff, and never had any family history in it. My mom got me into youth clinics in the area I grew up, and fell in love with it. I was out there all summer long as a kid, growing up playing golf and stuff. But and then I transitioned to running. It was just out of the blue in 2021. A buddy that I work with, and a guy that the guy
Yeah.
I was going to pace
Yeah.
with, he decided to get into it, and
Mm-hmm.
he was running. He thought he was going to run the half marathon. Well, his mom actually signed him up, and she signed him up for the full. Well, he found that out middle of getting ready for it. And I signed up for the half marathon in 2021, and I did really well in Des Moines. And I was like, "Oh, this is awesome! I love it. It was just a great feeling. It felt like I unlocked a part of myself that I didn't really know I had." And then I was like, maybe I can do more. You know, what's my limit here? I want to try and push myself a little more. Did the same exact race, but instead of the half, I did the full the next October, and did really well there, and just kept going. So
That's so cool.
Yep.
So I want to take a step back. You said you were up to 285?
285, yeah.
And so, like, had you lost some weight before you started running again?
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
So I took a really big turn in my health and fitness in 2016, in March of 2016. So I was always, playing football and doing sports. I even lifted, like, after high school. I lifted every day in college after I got off work. I worked full-time job in college too and stuff. And, I was in decent shape. I'd run on the treadmill a little bit, 30 minutes here, 40 minutes there. But then eventually, after I graduated college, I started working, 12-hour swing shifts and night shift, day shift sort of stuff for a while, and I just let that go.
Yeah.
It didn't fit into I didn't fit that. I didn't make time for it, and I got on the scale the one day in March. I actually have a reminder set on my phone every day of when that health and fitness journey started, because it marks such an important turn in my life, and just decided to start eating healthy, and I was active. I was still active. I played slow pitch softball too, like recreational slow pitch softball and stuff. And I was like, I got to do something, and I just stuck with it. I was consistent, and just took my diet. It was all diet, honestly. Really,
well, that's such a cool story, and so so many people can like identify with that. Like, it's easy to stay active when we're in high school, and quite frankly, most of us if we go to college, our schedules in college are pretty flexible. You got plenty of time to continue to stay active. You're still kind of young. Get into that first career where you're working swing shifts. Again, we live in Fort Dodge. How many people in Fort Dodge have swing shifts? Or are working nights? Or 12-hour shifts? Like all of those things. But like you acknowledge that you just didn't fit it in.
Yep.
And I think that's a good point. I kind of want everyone to hear is those are all very valid excuses of why not to prioritize your health. But then, a lot of people hopefully have a moment like you did. You have a moment in the day like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I let myself come into? How did you feel? Like when you stepped on the scale that morning and you saw that number,
yeah, it was a terrible. It was a terrible feeling. You look down and you're like, "There's no way that's right." And so you step off, you step back on again, and it's like, "Nope, it's right." And I just, for some reason, it just clicked in my head. I just flipped a mental switch, and I'm like, Brady, you have to change your life, or you're not. It's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. And I just, I just decided that I wanted to be somebody different. I wanted to, be more proud of how I looked and how I felt. Honestly, like how I felt. It's just a huge weight literally off of my shoulders, my whole body and stuff. And I was able to do everything in my life better, and stuff.
It's so interesting. Like people would look at you right now. I would have never guessed that.
Yeah.
And people look at me similar way. I was similar. Like when I was, pre-high school, I was the chubby kid. I was always athletic. I was always in every sport. I had a dad that worked with us all the time. So I moved well, but I was the chubby kid. And then wrestling my freshman year, I cut down a bigger weight class than I had before, and I lost a lot of what you call your baby fat. I went from, I think, freshman year of football, I played at 160. I wrestled at 140. Played football, and then I similar. They call it the freshman 15 or whatever. My freshman year of college, I similar to you. I although you worked out in college, that first semester I didn't really work out. I know I had, I was at the University of Iowa, and we had access to the rec, which is a nice facility. I didn't really use it. Gained quite a bit of weight. Didn't really notice it, but all my pants were fitting weird, and kind of maybe by, grace of God, I guess. I had to drop a class second semester, so I ended up picking up jogging, which I'd never been a runner before, and I picked up racquetball, and I actually paid money to take those as college credit. But twice a week I jogged, and twice a week I played racquetball. Lost all the weight plus, and I didn't have that like aha moment at that point, but that was definitely like, I would consider the beginning of where I got, I was no longer forced because I wasn't in the sport to do exercise or be fit. I chose to exercise and be fit. And so, which dovetail greatly into like, that was the freshman year of college. My sophomore year of college, I got the opportunity to work for the Hawkeye football team, not in any healthcare capacity. I was the video crew. I filmed them, right? I filmed practicing games. But because I was that, I got to get into the football weight room. So I got to train in the football weight room, which was cool. Got to do that, enjoyed that. And then post-grad, when I went to chiropractic school, I got the ability to, they gave scholarships for rugby. I'd never played rugby before. And I was like, well, I'll do anything for money. I mean, so I tried and ended up earning a scholarship partway through, not a full scholarship, but partial. But again, just continue the fitness journey. And then obviously chiropractic training is so holistic. We believe in the philosophy and the care of chiropractic is so holistic and taking care of your health overall that there are chiropractors that don't take care of themselves, but I just don't know how that would happen. Anyway, so it just continued on from there. But it's just interesting that I feel like sometimes what becomes our biggest strengths was maybe at one point a slight weakness for us or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that story is really neat.
Yeah,
I appreciate you
thank
sharing
you.
that.
I appreciate
cool,
that. Yeah.
So now you've been training for marathons for quite a while.
Yep.
And you even do cross training because again, you guys can see in the film and in the camera, he doesn't look like you're not super skinny.
I'm not your stereotypical runner.
Runner. Yeah.
You know, it still kind of intimidates me sometimes looking at some of the guys that I'm running in some of these marathons, you know, because they're taller, lankier, have 20 less pounds to carry during these 26 miles and stuff. But I do some cross training. I do push-ups and pull-ups every day and just that sort of stuff, just body weight exercises. And I do want to get into triathlon. That's one goal of mine moving forward. Got, again, buddies that do it. And I think this winter I'll probably get in the pool, do some swimming and stuff.
Have you done much?
I haven't. No, I'm not a strong swimmer by any means, but it's something I can learn, something I can challenge myself to do. And it seems intimidating until you just take that first initial jump, I feel like, and it'll come with time, just repetition and consistency. But no, I have a little experience on the bike too, because I've experienced a couple injuries through my running career that, it had to take the impact off of those injuries, and I needed to still exercise in my head. I can't let it go. I can't give it up. And I just got on a bike and did that for 6 months during the one injury, and then another 2 or 3 months during my most recent knee injury and stuff. So
that's going to be a great segue in a second. But the other point I wanted to point that you've kind of said several times is you're looking for things that cause you to push yourself behind a boundary or learn something new. And I think that's where a lot of people, even when they get into fitness, is they don't do those two things and they become stagnant. It gets boring, and then they kind of, they start training and their training just kind of tails off because they're bored and not mentally stimulated. And so I think it's always good, no matter what type of fitness or exercise you're choosing, is to have something to train for or try something new. I think I'm not dogmatic to any type of fitness because I think you have to enjoy it. Like if you don't enjoy your fitness, then you're not going to stick with it. So you got to find the type of fitness that you enjoy and you have fun with and stimulates you in different ways. But that's some really good points I've pulled out since you've been talking is you're looking for things that continue to challenge you and new things to learn. That's fun. But we'll go ahead and use your segue there is in the past, you've had some injuries and transitioned from, focusing on running to using the bike, which is a great idea. So if you need to, you want to stay physically active, but yet you have an injury going on, to transition to something different so you can keep active and give some tissues a rest, that's a great idea. But where we met was as you were training for this most recent marathon. And some of those nagging things came along, and that's where we met. So you came into us how many weeks before your marathon?
I want to say, I think it was about a month, I believe, but before the race and stuff. And I had a nagging glute pain that then I think was causing a surgically repaired knee to kind of act up a little bit. Some hip pain that I had from another previous injury that it started to kind of make its way and get a little more noticeable as time went on and as intensity built up. So a month before the race, you're kind of getting into those peak weeks of training before you start like a 2-week taper where you lower the volume and intensity before the race day and stuff. And I really did not want to be injured for this previous race because you put so much time and work and thought and planning into everything, and decided to reach out to you and see if you could help. And
we were able to.
Yep.
So I think that timing is always kind of a fun deal. I often wonder if you were 4 months before a race, it wouldn't have been as important, maybe. And so you would maybe biked for a bit and gave it some rest. But we had a deadline. I remember that actually, that you came in and we had 4 weeks.
Yep.
And the other thing that's unique about marathon runners and athletes like you is you would have run that race regardless.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, as long as it wasn't something that was excruciating to the point I couldn't try, I would have finished it. Yeah.
But it was definitely rewarding to be able to have you come in. And I think if we talk through like your symptoms, you had the glute pain after, was it like a mile?
Yeah, it varied from day to day. A lot of times it showed up in those first few miles. It would, as I don't know how much distance running you've done, but sometimes the pains show up and you kind of ignore them because you're just starting out, loosening things up. Yeah. They go away, they come back, 2-3 miles later. But this one would just stay there, and it was just that burning sensation and soreness, and then it was affecting my surgically repaired knee, which I really kind of worried about because that was a weak point that I knew of anyways, and didn't want to do more damage. So,
and so just kind of talk through what we were able to identify with him, and even with athletes in general is sometimes you feel like you've maybe done something wrong, or like, and that is the case sometimes. But when people train like you train, you can be doing everything right, and something like this can pop up. And so essentially what we had found with you is there wasn't a strain like an injury to your glute. There was a repetitive sprain, strain, injury / complex going on. The repetitive nature of all of your training had caused a repetitive sprain, strain to those tissues, which shows its head a lot of times as adhesions or what a term that a lot of people understand is scar tissue. The fascial layers of our muscles will begin because of all the constant rubbing or the constant strain day after day, mile after mile, those things happening. We'll get some adhesions or scar tissue between the layers of tissues, which inherently will cause some pain. If you think of those, the adhesions as like Velcro, you got layers of tissue almost together like Velcro. And kind of like you mentioned there, when you first get moving, the Velcro's stuck and you start moving and it hurts to kind of pull the Velcro apart. Well, then you get the Velcro loose, you're warmed up, you're feeling good, and then you maybe are towards the end. So the tissues, because it's not as strong, doesn't have as good blood flow because of those things, then the tissue starts to hurt more. Or maybe it's right after your run, you start to hurt quite a bit because the adhesions start to form again. You get an inflammatory cycle from the Velcro breaking loose again. And so that cycle you've talked about is very common. So first and foremost, when people have pain like you did, especially if they're doing training, it's not like a strain like or a sprain like I rolled my ankle or I hyperextended my knee or I acutely pulled real hard and pulled my hamstring. It's not like that. It's a repetitive
there was not
nature
that one moment that just sparked that.
Correct. It was repetitive in nature. But it's also interesting that quickly you noticed biomechanics and a kinetic chain, and the fact that you knew your glute was starting to affect your knee. You knew the knee was a weak point, but you knew the glute was the problem, and you were right. I think we did a couple of treatments on your knee, but that we did the majority of the work on your glute. And so what we identified with you with those adhesions is we worked on clearing those up with manual therapy, aka the technique that I use is called active release technique. Pressure on the tissues, trying to isolate a tissue. You do some motion while I'm putting pressure. We're pulling and unvelcroing those tissues to hopefully permanently break that Velcro loose, so the tissues will glide and slide normally again. We followed up with some laser to help with the healing, and lo and behold, fairly quickly, you started to feel pretty good. Your miles got better. You got faster. And how'd the race go?
I ran it, and it couldn't have went better. Honestly, it was the best race I've ever ran in my life. Yes, it wasn't like a PR time. You know, everybody looks at their PR time for their best performance. That race was the best performance I've ever had running any race of any distance, and there was a lot that kind of made it that, but without the treatment and stuff, I don't think I would have been able to do what I did in Minnesota. It was
super cool.
Yeah, it was a great race. It was a hot day. I just kept going. My nutrition was on point. I had no pain. Like normally I'd finish a marathon and I have a nagging pain in my groin. Both sides of my groin start hurting, and didn't have any of that. Didn't have any knee pain, which was really surprising.
Right.
I had a torn meniscus that was at a full meniscectomy where they cut like 40% of my meniscus out last October. Didn't know how that was going to affect my knee after running a marathon and stuff. Did a lot of the training, but when you're running the race, you're going as hard as you can. All that training you did, you use that and you give everything you have for that 3 hours or 4 hours, however long you're running the race. And it was the best I've ever felt after a marathon, which was really reassuring. And it gave me a lot of confidence moving forward, because it's hard kind of for me to have some of that confidence until then because of these injuries. I didn't know how my body was going to react, but it was a great race. Couldn't have went better. Yeah,
that's awesome. One thing that I love to hear from you when you were in for the treatment is, even though we didn't like treat your knee, and you kind of have this fear around that, you're lacking some meniscus in there because they've cut it out from that previous surgery. And we didn't use the PRP, we didn't use any of the stem cell treatments, but like, you made the comment how excited you were to hear that that's an option.
I was, and it just that gives me confidence moving forward. Also, knowing you have all these other methods of treating that, and if I get something in the future, because let's be honest, it's going to happen. I mean, it will happen eventually. It's not a perfectly good knee right now. I'm going to preserve it as long as I can. And knowing you have like the BPC 157 patches, I've seen those, and I was like, that's been known to help with stuff like that, and the stem cells and all that. I didn't know you had all of that here at Active Health. And you hear like, you're kind of like what I've known you as around the community, the chiropractic.
Yeah.
Well, you're not just a chiropractic. You're not Active Health Chiropractic. You're Active Health Clinics, which that to me is awesome. And that's, I see all these things you do, and it's really nice to know. It's like kind of like having an extra tool in my toolbox moving forward with my endurance sports and stuff. So
that's really kind of over the years what we've tried to develop here is I am a chiropractor. My brother is a chiropractor. And we were Active Health Chiropractic, and we're really good at that. And we did use chiropractic care with you. We did adjust your pelvis and spine and stuff to help with the biomechanics. But people like you, we've always done some soft tissue stuff. And people like other patients, we've identified we can do really cool things in our small community. We can have really good care. We can have the best of the technology, the best of the research. Type options for people in our community. You don't have to be in a huge market like Des Moines or Cedar Rapids or wherever to get this quality of care. And so over the years, we've just built the tools that we have in the office, the supplements / peptides like the BPC, the personnel to bring in a nurse practitioner to be a part of our team, and the personnel of our we have a PTA right now. Physical therapy assistant, and we have a physical therapist hired coming up, and they're finishing up school, so it'll be 2026 before we have an actual physical therapist. But we're excited to be able to offer those services and continue to.
And it seems it's not just about what you already have. You're constantly researching the cutting edge and the new methods and ways to better your practice, and I see that, and I want to go to somebody like that to help me with.
Well, it's
with
just like
and,
you and your fitness.
Yeah.
It's like if it's easy to just have people come in, we adjust them, and et cetera. But like, just like you get kind of stale with your fitness routine if you don't change it up or pursue something more. Like, even doctors can get stale with their care or stale with what they're doing if they don't stimulate themselves. Stay in the research, stay in the listening podcast, stay in the listening to people in the industry to what is the best care that we can offer and find ways to do it. And so we love doing that too.
Keeps it exciting and keeps it new, and you can help a broader range of people that way too, which is great. Yeah,
that's been awesome. Thanks, man. This was a great little episode. Do you have any further comments, or we've really appreciated you and your mindset towards your health and your fitness. It fits right in line with what we do here at Active Health. So I hope you've enjoyed this time with us. Hopefully you caught the little nuances and getting stuck in life and having that moment to be able to step into uncomfortableness and looking for things to push yourself physically, mentally, something new, a new thing to learn, not letting yourself get stale. So I hope you can have some good takeaways from this. Because remember, we did not do an intro to this, but this is the Active Health Podcast with Dr. Josh Mason, where we talk all things health, fitness, performance, and where we believe in taking an active role in your health. Hope you join us next time for the next great episode.